Good evening. Welcome to Wesley Church. What a blessing it is to come together in worship this evening. I want to say a special word of welcome to any guests who are worshiping with us. We're glad that you're here. We would love for you to stop by after the service and connect with one of our hospitality volunteers in a red vest just across the hall after worship. Also want to make sure you know that we're excited for what's coming Sunday. In fact, that's why we call today Good Friday. The only part that's good is that the fact is we know Sunday is coming. And Sunday we have a great array of worship services. We've got a 6:30 a.m. sunrise service led by our youth ministry. Traditional worship we have at 8:15, 9:30, and 11. We also have a modern worship service at 11 o'clock in our modern worship space. Also a special word of welcome to those who are worshiping with us online. We ask that you participate with us. Don't simply watch worship, but join with us in worship. Because we join together tonight to remember the events of this day over 2,000 years ago. Truly, Good Friday is the most difficult day of what we know as Passion Week. Christ's journey turned treacherous and unimaginably painful in these final hours that led to his death. And while many of us have become familiar with some of the details of these events, and we know what is to come on Sunday, we invite each of you to intentionally take some time this evening to be fully present in the moment as we remember all that Jesus went through.
Good evening. We come together tonight at the foot of the cross, the emblem of suffering and shame. Would you stand together for that old hymn, The Old Rugged Cross? Let's sing together. On a hill far away stood an old rugged cross, the emblem of suffering and shame. And I love that old cross where the dearest and best for a world of love and
Friends, I do want to encourage everyone to have one of these cards. So if you did not pick one up when you came in, simply stay where you are, but raise your hand, and one of our awesome hospitality team member will get one to you. These will be very important later in the service. What we're celebrating tonight on this night that we call good is the fact that we have a God who is so good, a God who is so loving, that he chose to take our place in death. And he gives us the opportunity to be made new, to be made clean. And so the point of these cards is to acknowledge that each one of us are sinners very much in need of a Savior. And so Jesus invites you to write on this card. They're not going to be kept. We ask that you do it anonymously, obviously. But write on this card what it is that you need to allow Jesus to take away from you. What do you need to have the blood of Christ wash clean from you? There's something powerful about confessing it to Jesus, and it's only to Jesus that you will. And then later in the service, we will invite you to bring these up and place them in that basket in front of the cross, so that what you're offering to Jesus, he will take from you, and he will allow you to be made clean and to be made whole. So don't miss this opportunity for healing, because that's what this night is all about. Friends, I'm going to invite you to join me in a prayer, and you will see the words on the screen. Please join with me. O God of infinite love and power, we gather together on this Good Friday to reflect on the passion of Jesus Christ. We are humbled in the presence of such love and mercy. Open our hearts this day to the sacrifice and true meaning of Good Friday, and fill us with your love and powerful spirit of holiness. Create in us a clean heart, O Lord, and renew in us a spirit of your love. Amen.
After Jesus prayed, he went with his disciples to a garden across the Kidron Valley, just east of Jerusalem. Judas came with a group of Roman soldiers and temple guards carrying lanterns and torches and weapons. Then Jesus, who knew everything that was about to happen, walked up to them and asked, "Who are you looking for?" They answered, "Jesus of Nazareth." Jesus replied, "That's me." The soldiers and guards were shocked and took a step back. Judas, standing among them, showed no reaction. Jesus asked them again, "Who are you after?" They answered, "Jesus of Nazareth." Jesus replied, "I already told you that I am Jesus, so if it is me you want, you can let these others go." Suddenly Simon Peter drew his sword and rushed at the high priest's servant, cutting off his ear. This servant's name was Malchus. Jesus turned and ordered Peter, "Put away your sword. This is the cup that God has given me to drink. Let me drink it."
with reverent step and song. Those little lanes, they have not changed. A sweet peace fills the air. I walked today where Jesus walked and felt his presence there. My pathway led through Bethlehem, a memory's ever sweet. The little hills of Galilee that knew those childish feet. The Mount of Olives, hallowed scenes that Jesus knew before. I saw the mighty Jordan roll as in the days of yore. I knelt today where Jesus knelt, where all alone he prayed. The Garden of Gethsemane, my heart felt unafraid. I picked my heavy burden up, and with him by my side, I climbed the hill of Calvary. I climbed the hill of Calvary. I climbed the hill of Calvary, where on the cross he died. I walked today where Jesus walked and felt him close to me.
The Roman soldiers with their captain, as well as the temple guards, took hold of Jesus and tied him up. Instead of taking him first to Caiaphas, the high priest, they took him to Annas, Caiaphas' father-in-law. Now Caiaphas was the one who had advised the temple leaders that it would be good for one person to die for the people. Simon, Peter, and the other disciples followed along to see what would happen. The other disciple was a familiar face at the high priest's house, so he was able to get into the courtyard with the group. Peter, however, had to stay outside of the gate, looking in. The other disciple came back out of the gate and had a word with the gatekeeper and brought Peter in. But the gatekeeper stopped them and asked, "Aren't you one of this man's disciples also?" Peter said, "No, I am not." The servants and the temple guard had made a small fire in the courtyard, and they were standing around it trying to stay warm in the cold night air. Peter joined them, huddling by the fire, trying to stay warm.
Please join me in singing, O Sacred Head Now Wounded. You may remain seated.
Simon Peter was standing by the fire out in the courtyard staying warm. The others around the fire were suspicious of him and asked, "You're not one of that man's disciples, are you?" Peter said, "No, I am not," and denied it. Another of the high priest's servants, actually a relative of the man Peter had attacked earlier, confronted him, saying, "I think I saw you in the garden with him when he was arrested." Again, Peter denied it. At that moment, a rooster crowed.
Friends, during the hymn, I am going to invite you to come forward and allow Jesus to take your brokenness. Allow Jesus to bring healing into your life as you come forward on your own and bring what is breaking you to the cross, that Jesus can make you whole. Please bring your cards forward during this hymn.
As you're bringing your cards, join with me in singing Beneath the Cross of Jesus. can continue to bring your cards forward as Mary Beth plays on the organ.
They took Jesus from Caiaphas to the Roman governor's headquarters in the early morning hours. They themselves did not enter the headquarters, so that they would not become ritually unclean and unable to celebrate Passover. The governor, Pilate, came out to them and asked, "What is the charge against this man?" They answered, "Obviously, he is a criminal, or why else would we be bringing him to you?" But Pilate replied, "No, you take him yourselves. Judge him by your laws." They said to him, "We do not have any laws that allow us to put a man to death."
Pilate ordered that Jesus be flogged. The soldiers who carried out the order also made a crown out of thorns and put it on his head. They found a purple cloth and threw it over his shoulders. They mocked him by yelling, "Hail, King of the Jews," and slapping his face. Pilate went out to the temple leaders and said to them, "Look, I am going to bring him out so you can see that I do not find him guilty of any crime." So Jesus came out, wearing the crown of thorns and the purple cloth. Pilate said, "Behold the man." When the priest and their guards saw him, they shouted, "Crucify him! Crucify him!" Pilate responded, "If you want to crucify him, take him yourselves and do it. I find no fault in him." They answered him, "We have a law, and by this law he ought to die, and he has claimed to be the Son of God." This scared Pilate, and once more entering his headquarters, he asked Jesus, "Where did you come from?" To this, Jesus gave no answer. So Pilate said, "So now you won't speak to me. I have my life in your hands. I can release you or crucify you." Jesus answered, "Power, the only power you have over me is given to you from above. The one who delivered me to you is guilty of the far greater sin."
For those who are able, please stand and join me in singing "When I Survey the Wondrous Cross."
At this, Pilate waited to release Jesus, but the temple leaders argued with him. "If you release this man, you are no friend of Caesar. If a person says he is king, he is challenging the emperor's authority," they said. When Pilate heard these words, he led Jesus outside to a place called the Pavement, or Gabbatha in Aramaic. Pilate sat down on the judgment bench. It was about noon on the day of preparation for the Passover. He said to the temple leaders, "Here is your king." But they shouted back at him, "Take him away! Kill him! Crucify him!" Pilate asked them, "Shall I crucify your king?" The chief priests answered, "We have no king but Caesar." And so Jesus was taken away to be crucified.
So they took Jesus away, carrying his cross alone. he went out to what is called the place of the skull, or Golgotha in Aramaic. There they crucified him. With him 2 others were crucified, one on each side, with Jesus in the middle. Pilate had made a sign for Jesus' cross with the inscription, "Jesus of Nazareth, the King of the Jews." Many people read this sign because the place was near the city and the message was written in Aramaic, Latin, and Greek.
While this was happening, Jesus' mother, her sister, and Mary Magdalene were standing near the cross where Jesus hung. Jesus saw his mother standing next to the disciple whom he loved, and he said, "Woman, here is your son." And then he looked at the disciple, and he said, "Here is your mother." From that moment on, the disciple considered her to be his own mother and welcomed her into his home. And then Jesus knew that it was over. He said, "I am thirsty." There was a jar of sour wine on hand, so someone soaked a sponge with it and put it at the end of a hyssop branch. They lifted up the branch up to his mouth so he could drink. This fulfilled the words of the psalm, "For my thirst they gave me vinegar to drink." After he received the wine, Jesus said, "It is finished." And then his head dropped and he gave up his spirit.
Joseph of Arimathea was a disciple of Jesus, but was not open about it because he was afraid of the temple leaders. He asked Pilate if he could take the body of Jesus for burial. Pilate granted his request, and Joseph came to remove his body. Nicodemus, the one who had first come to Jesus by night to ask him questions about God, came also and brought a mixture of myrrh and aloes, about 100 pounds of it. Together, Joseph and Nicodemus took the body of Jesus and wrapped it in cloth, soaked in the spices, according to the traditional Jewish burial custom. There was a garden very near the place where he had been crucified, and in the garden there was a new tomb that had not yet been used. And so, because it was the day of preparation, and the tomb was close at hand, they laid Jesus in it. By his stripes, we are healed. Through his pain, we have been cleansed. By his love, we have been given life. Easter is coming, but it's not here. Tonight we are in darkness. Tonight we have lost the light of the world. And so in darkness, for now we remain. I invite you to stay for as long as you would like and consider the depth of love that God has shown us this night. When you are ready, I would invite you to depart in silence, giving thanks to God that Christ loved us to the very end.